That'd be a good name.
Rick, let's continue this. How are you feeling? Because I don't want you to feel ganged up on or attacked, but I also do feel that...
I love when people tell me how they feel.
Yeah, he's used to it.
If you told me this a while ago, then we would have had this conversation a while ago. Not putting that on you, and I understand you didn't feel comfortable doing it, but I had no idea you guys felt that way.
I think it's a little bit like, do we let him just go off and shine because you are so funny? I would never want to stifle like anything you do, so it's like, we'll figure it out in post.
But like I think it's maybe just certain subject matter, or it just
I don't know what those subject matters are, because we've had this with when we did Rick and Esther. Like, there are times where it's just boom, 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 and then there's times where your feelings would get hurt, and I'm like, which is valid. I just like, I don't know what the rules are, apparently.
I think it's not that there are rules. It's just that when I'm sitting here and now twice there's been a joke about how our show is not funny and is boring. I'm like, what is that? Why?
Okay, well, I am feeling a little defensive right now.
Okay.
Because you say things, and I can't think of a specific example like that.
That's okay.
But you say things like that to me all the time. You'll snore while I'm talking. You're saying I'm boring. When we're on my podcast and I'm doing some of my silly animations, you're like, this is stupid. Why would you do that? And you make fun of that stuff. And I believe both that you respect me and that you might not like those jokes or those those things. And there's truth and there's silliness, and like, we're different. I am able to receive things in a certain way, not for better or for worse, differently than you. And it's easy to get confused of like, oh, I could take this, so she can, when that's not necessarily the case. But I will say, the rules are not something that I came into our relationship with, rather something that we calibrated together. Mm-hmm. And there are times where the same thing the next time bothers you. Even you said, oh, well, Rick, I made this decision that sometimes people gross me out and you're on the list, or however you said it. And it's like, I remember we did an episode once where I was talking about something, and then I'm like, and then this girl went blah, blah, blah. It was a very maybe PG-13, if not PG joke, and you lost it. And I was like, oh, okay.
What does lost it mean, though? That's like, sounds like...
I would love to cut to a clip. Ew. See, it makes me not even want to be doing this with you.
But see, that's funny.
No, whether it's funny or not.
Yeah.
It was you judging what I was doing, saying it was not good. And I would say
in a comedic way.
Sure,
yeah.
In your comedic way.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, right, those are the rules that we've established.
Yes.
So in my comedic way, when I'm like, I mean, we do this stuff all the time. We used to do this on Undateable when it was like, when something happens and we go... and the ratings are going down in that moment. It's just, we're self-deprecating. We make jokes about each other, about other people. Now, there are some people you can't do that with.
Do that live on TV.
It is a little confusing with you because you do it all the time. And
I do what all the time?
Punch and make fun.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that I punch all the time.
Okay, well, to me, I receive it that way, and I like it.
Punching back.
I like it.
Punching back.
Look, I agree. I like it. I like when you punch at me. It's fun.
So I don't know when. So what I've just learned is there's a sensitivity to maybe talking about the show as a whole. Check.
To be honest, it feels like punching down, right? Because your podcast is more successful than ours, and it feels like you're coming on our podcast and saying and I know you said you don't know our numbers, but the last time we had a phone call, we were talking numbers. Maybe you don't remember. I don't expect you to remember everything we say to each other, but I was telling you our numbers and compared to yours, and they are much lower. And so I think that's where when it feels like you're punching down. When you call me ugly, I don't give a fuck, because I personally don't think you're punching down. I think I'm prettier than you. But I do feel that when you come on our podcast and you say your numbers are bad and it's boring, I go, ugh. It's almost like if Scarlett Johansson walked in the room and was like, Esther, you're ugly and you're never going to be acting and in movies. I'd be like, why the fuck are you saying that to me, bitch?
Oh, that'd be
Wouldn't I be making similar jokes to you guys on Tiger Belly? And like, oh, this is this, and something more to Bobby than to you. Like, I would be punching Bobby too.
Again, you might not be viewing it that way. That's the way I'm receiving it, as it feels like punching down. I'm not saying that you're on purpose punching down.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't see you or a show. I'm genuinely I didn't even think as lesser than. You guys are my friends, and I make jokes at you, and I guess since this is your podcast, by association, your podcast, which is also your podcast, and then you're feeling it too, I don't know. I was just like, I'm just throwing fucking darts. And and not meaning to make excuses. Really, I'm sorry, clocked. I will not make jokes about your podcast anymore.
May hit the triple down.
There are some other things that you have brought up to me that is not relevant outside of the fact that they're just variables of certain things to not make jokes at that I've heard you and I haven't. There are certain things that like I know, hey, this is not something to play with. I didn't realize this was one of those. And had we had that conversation, I'll say I didn't remember. And I think I get it now.
Can I give an analogy? Okay. You know, you guys are throwing a lot of words at me, and I'm walking into a relationship that feels a little bit at the end, and I brought the cheap wine. Now I'm feeling bad about it, but the dinner's almost ready. Let me, as somebody who speaks Ricky, let me just, knowing him for, 20 years, I'll give a great analogy of Ricky. Ricky can't wrestle. Let me explain. So sometimes, you know, guys, like I remember we'd be outside a show and we'd have like comedian friends and he kind of mess around, ha, 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 ha. But once you engage in that game with Rick, he's going to choke you out. So, and he did that to a few friends. I go, what are you doing, man? Oh, I thought we were wrestling. Yeah. And it's like, no, I was just playing around. So what I'm saying is that when Rick commits to the game, that's the game. For him here, that's his game.
Sorry, and not to like give you a better analogy.
Oh, please. Well, you know what? Now we got a problem. You know, first off, you come in here gaslighting me, all right? You're probably going to ghost me, and God knows if you're future faking me. And I swear to God, boundaries have been crossed, and codependency is something I need.
We both have. We both have. Well, I think what you're trying to say is in the game of jiu-jitsu, you don't know how to spar. He knows how to choke someone out and to finish, but he doesn't know how to train and spar. He will go for the finish. It's just the play thing. He,
you know, because there's so many times we'd be somewhere and I go, Ricky doesn't play. Ricky doesn't play.
By the way, that wasn't an insult. I think that's.
I understand. I also have really worked hard on that and recognizing when I'm wrestling and the other people are sparring.
Yeah.
And I believe I have not only been working on it, but I've gotten quite good at it. I'm not a magician, but when somebody says to me, hey, we're sparring, it's very easy for me. Like you said, you were nervous, and Rick, how are you? I value information like that so much, it doesn't make me feel lesser about myself. It makes me feel grateful that I can now calibrate and fit in better with certain people. So I might not recognize that you're sparring. And with you especially, it's very confusing because your spar turns into wrestling, back into spar. I don't know the rules with you. I do believe you. So when somebody says, hey, Rick, that hurts my feelings, I wouldn't say, that hurts my feelings, you know? I would be like, what did I just miss?
You gotta laugh.
Yeah, he'll do that. Like, you know, a lot of ball busting that happened on the set of Undateable. And, man, they really threw me under the bus on that show. You know, scripts just got to the point they'd be like, Justin, you look bad with no chin. I go, that's not even a joke. That's just how I look today. That would be like in the script. The writers see me and do that. But I told you and I told Chris, like, you know, I could take the jokes. I have fun. But I told Rick privately, I said, just don't make fun of my hair, you know? And I told Chris privately, and they both went, done. You know, didn't know that bothered you. And I was like, yeah, because I'm buying this now and doing all that shit. I don't care. Go get a doctor. Go to Turkey. I didn't go yet, but I'm going to go again. It's like tattoos, man. I want to fucking Sonic the Hedgehog this one day. But they just went, oh, okay, that's off limits. And they never brought it up again unless we're together talking about hair.
There was an episode where after that, Bill...
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about already?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
The water?
Yeah, when we were live.
Yeah, and Bill said he wanted me to dump this bucket of water on Brent's head, and I go, I don't think we should do that. Brent is a little insecure about his hair, and he goes, it's funny, it's fine. He'll think it's funny. If it's funny, it's fine, or something like that. And then
Live,
I'm like,
national television.
So I did it. It's at the very end of the episode, so there's maybe 10 seconds after. I poured the water on him, and I put do you remember? I put the bucket over his head, and I left the bucket on his head,
and
so you couldn't see his hair. I'm so sorry I had to do this, but don't take it off yet until the show is over. So I did what I had to do, but I left so you couldn't see his hair.
And I was in there like, thank you.
That's really sweet. And I want to piggyback off of that and say, Rick, that genuinely the fact that we can even have this conversation and like, because it probably, I would imagine that when you get feedback like this, it makes you maybe feel under attack. I know I personally would, like, because it's just hard to take criticism or whatever. And I just really appreciate that you create a safe space and that you are comfortable and you are so intelligent that you're able to take it really well. And I don't know, I'm just really appreciative of the safety that you create for me to feel like I can say how I feel and not be like made fun of, or just honestly to be received is like, it's really a huge deal. And I don't know a lot of people that are capable of that, myself included. Like, I don't know.
Thank you. When I joke, the intention for me behind it is maybe 100%, if not almost 100%, a form of like connection. And I'm wanting to connect. And I think I'm connecting. When I find out I'm not, now we're floating, and where's the connection? It's just honesty and like telling me how you feel. So like, I'll grab onto that just as easily as this. This is just where I live and play. But like the moment we're like, hey, I can't have this now, I want this other lifeline of that. So I'm wanting to connect all the time. This idea of not liking small talk, I get, and I talk about it in my act a lot, but it's not that small talk, it's bad. It's just that a lot of times it cannibalizes true connection. And to me, more than most, and I understand it's annoying to people, I love bits so much, I always want to do them. And it's not just being silly, it's being seen and being received and playing that back and forth. And we fell in love because of it, because I'm doing bits with Brent, and when I'm not doing bits with Brent, I'm in the audience watching him do it. And I don't mean at a comedy club, I mean in conversation. Sometimes Brent's in the pocket, and I think he's the funniest person in the world when he's in the pocket. But when not, it's genuine.
Having trouble finding it right now.
I've also experienced this in my personal, like my intimate relationships. Like, there are times where it's like, oh, like this person that I'm competing with who makes a little joke at me, and I'm like, I love this. They didn't hurt my feelings. It's like, oh, we're connecting. Let me do it back and fucking harder. And it's to connect even more with you. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I made.
Okay, this is why you do not do a podcast with women. Oh my God. Freaking Khalyla and Esther really called out Rick Glassman for making fun of their podcast, for being boring and not funny. First and foremost, of course, it's not funny. The stand-up comedian left, Annie Lederman. I get Esther's a stand-up, but come on. I mean, let's keep it real. But he was just joking, and like, they really did that call out and like used all the words and like punching down and safe space and ugh. I mean, they're reeling from the fact that Annie Lederman left their podcast to begin with, but now they're doing stuff like this. And now I'm wondering if this was one of the complaints Annie Lederman had and one of the reasons why she left the podcast to begin with. Because, if they're this sensitive, and is Esther even more sensitive than Khalyla? Esther's supposed to be a stand-up. Let me guess. I don't know too much about Esther, but is she like another just rich kid who got into stand-up comedy because mommy and daddy are able to pay the bills for over a decade? I mean, I have no idea, but I would assume this is the case. But, I mean, to complain about that, ridiculous. That's why O&A would never have a hole on the show. Just put the brake on the fun. Disgusting, but let me know your thoughts in the comments.